right, the reason why I wanted you to glue these papers in certain ways, because we need to fill in some blank space. I write fairly large, so if you don't write as large as me, this may be easier for you to fit on than I had, but I write pretty big. All right. Evolution. What is evolution? There can be evolution in. There could be evolution in geology, so the change in the earth over time. That's evolution. But when we talk about evolution of a species, we're talking about a change in the actual species over time. That's the simple, bare bones definition for evolution. Change in the species over time. For you math type of people, if you are more mathematically minded, this is what it would look like. Change over time. Delta means change. You cannot have evolution without natural selection. Have you ever heard the phrase survival of the fittest? I mean, we watched a movie on it. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Survival of the fittest means that those who are best suited for the environment they live in are going to survive. So that's why natural selection is often referred to as survival of the fittest, aka means also known as. So natural selection, also known as survival of the fittest. Organisms with favorable or good traits will survive to produce the next generation. If you have the right tools to live, you'll make the babies. If you do not have the right traits to survive, then you will eventually die, and the genes that you have will not be passed on to future generations. So those genes will die out with you. I do not like this camera. So how does evolution occur? Why do we have evolution? What happens? going on here? This is where the mutations come in. You'll have one species that's born differently. They have a genetic mutation. And that'll change the traits or what they look like. And if that's a favorable mutation, that is a good thing, it's going to help them survive. Then eventually, after a few generations, that'll be the only trait that is seen. So do you guys remember genotypes and phenotypes? Yeah. So genotype is the coding in your genetic material, and the phenotype is how it's displayed. So I have coding in my DNA that gives me a phenotype of green eyes. So if you have a coding in an organism's DNA that makes their beaks look differently, their phenotype of their beak is different, then they may be more adapted to survive. And eventually, the only phenotypes you'll see is those of the surviving beak shapes. Sometimes there is such a dramatic change in a species that it becomes a whole new species. They get their own name. For example, that little bitty paper I gave you, mine is sideways because I wrote and then pasted, which was a poor move on my part. The little piece of paper has the evolution of what we know today as the modern horse. So on this little piece of paper, at the bottom, it's got what it looked like 50 million years ago. It was called something totally different. And then as it evolved, it became so different that it had a different species name. And then eventually, we have the modern day horse, which is the Equus. It evolved from that one ancestor, but it changed so much that it got a different name. The key to this working for a species is diversity. Does anybody know what diversity means? What do you think of when you hear the word diversity or diverse? Different. So if you have a species that's all the same, if there were no Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers, they were just reindeers, then that species may not survive because there's not enough difference. If everybody's the same and we have to change our environment for some reason, there's a drought, or somebody cuts down all the forests, or there's pollution. If all the species are the same, then what's going to happen is they're all going to die, and then the species becomes extinct. There's no more. All you need is a few different individuals. Diversity is good, because that means if there's a change, there should be somebody out of your species that can survive. If everybody looks the same, that's not good. If there's a change, y'all are in trouble. But if you've got some species that have diversity, when you change things up, there's probably somebody in there that's going to survive. And those that survive will make babies, and those babies will carry on the genes. When you're done, make sure that your highlighters make their way back to the bucket. Make sure your desk area is cleaned up, and I'll dismiss you by group. Make sure your notes are all up to date, because I'm feeling pop quizzy. Nobody, everyone is staying at desk. Except your father was. It was survival of the fittest. Really fast and stuff. All right, y'all, thanks for hanging in there. Oh, before you leave. No, I'll do it tomorrow. Go ahead. Make sure your ears cleaned up. Your ears cleaned up. Go ahead. I mean that in the best way possible.
You can put down the YouTube. She's live.
Oh, John. She recorded when I'm sitting here.
She's live.
Bro, she was listening to something.
Do not subscribe.
Don't subscribe to this channel.
There's one person watching.
Don't subscribe to this channel, guys. You can see me. Do not subscribe.
The kid that's talking right now likes Jacob.
Nah, I don't like her.
I mean, like, I can't lie. How do you get so fit? I ain't gonna lie. I ain't saying that. I ain't gonna
Alright, get out your science notebooks.
What?
We're gonna catch up.
Oh, she got
If we did not get to finish these this morning because announcements ran over